Great. Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. This is going to be kind of a shorter one today, and the reason why is because I feel like, well, first of all, I'm trying out a new audio setting now, which is to increase the amount of volume I have as a filter, to increase the gain. Second of all, in today's video / stream, we are going to be making a game, and by making a game, I mean starting this project. I may not stream the entire process, but I am going to do it on camera. A couple things. One, I am using Construct 2 version 280 64-bit. So today we're going to be starting a project. Now I originally started it off camera, but a couple of issues came up and I had to abandon that version. And by issues, I mean the entire thing corrupted, so I have to redo it. So I have a folder here of the stuff that I had so far, which wasn't much. I just had some construct files and then some animations, just some player stuff, some gun stuff, some UI stuff. But today we're going to be playing this. So what I'm going to be doing is putting this off to the side. Hold on 1 second. So I can access it at basically any time. So we're going to click Create New Project. We're going to do a empty project. No, retro style project, and we'll click OK. And to start off, we are going to delete everything that we don't need, which is this. I'll leave gamepad for now. I may take that off here. Second of all, I'm going to make this 1600 by 900. And same thing for the viewport size, so 1600 by 900. The reason that I'm doing 1600 by 900 is that when this is going to be the title screen. So first of all, I'm going to rename this to title. That's not what I wanted to rename it. Title. And I'm going to rename this to title. So I'm going to quickly make a new Trello board so that we know what we have to do. And by quickly make a new Trello board, I mean I already made one. Kind of. I set up a Trello board for it. I'm just going to name it duplicate. So we're going to do a couple of things. To do, doing, done. So this is all of the stuff that I want to get into this game, as well as scrapped, obviously, and also needs work. We're going to put this here, scrapped is going to go at the end, then we got to do, doing, needs work, and done. So needs work is effectively done, but I can still come back to work on it later. I'm going to be using, so now that we have this open, I'm actually going to delete this for now. I'll come back later to maybe do it. Let's get started with the title. First things first, I need an actual title. But I want to make a Sprite font. Basically, in Construct, you can make a font. So, actually, I'll leave that till maybe later. So, I guess for now, we can just make a normal, we can just use the normal Sprite font. And the text is gonna say, we'll name it, I'm gonna name it Evil Pig for now. I might change that name later on, but for now we can stay. I want to turn on Snap to Grid and Show Grid, as well as change the grid size to 8, 8. And just like that. So I'm going to increase the font size to maybe 24. That's not what I want. No. Font size scale. 5. Yeah, just like that. This is what it's going to be for now. And I'm going to give it a behavior. Nah. I'm just going to stick it, I don't know. There. Now the reason I'm using 1600 by 900 is because that's the resolution of my monitor. So if I start the project and it'll look like this, but if I full screen, it looks like this, which is what I want, a full screen game. I want to give it the ability to be full screen as well. So let's just make some. I'm gonna make a white Sprite font as well. So let me save this image real quick. And I'm going to actually open up Piskel, because Piskel has a special function that not everything has. So I'm going to import the Sprite font image, import it in, yes I'm sure, and there's this button, paint all pixels of the same color. Mess, boom, white text. So now we can export this as a Sprite sheet. Go back here, click this button, go to our downloads, find Sprite font, import it, and just like that, I don't know what it is. There we go. But I think I'm actually going to delete that for now. Go with this and rename this to Sprite font. I'm going to drag in Sprite. I'm going to make a new Sprite font as well. Insert new object, Sprite font. This is going to be the play button. And its scale is only 3. That way it doesn't take up as much space. Okay, maybe 4. So let's make this play button. For now, all it's going to be is you click the play button, you move on. So I'm going to make a new, so I'm actually going to leave this like this for now. We'll come back to it later. I'm going to make a new layout, and this is going to have an extra event sheet. This is going to be game. And its event sheet is going to be named E-Game. So we need to make the snap to grid and show grid work. Reset this to 8. Show collision polys. This goes to 8 as well. Turn off collision polys. This is our map so far. Now I'm actually going to decrease the size on this down to, again, 1600 by 900. Just let it full screen. And we can get started importing a bunch of stuff. Let me make a new folder in here. Add to folder. So, and then I'm going to make a new subfolder and name Flipnet. No, it's going to be named Tools. And audio, keyboard, and mouse can go in there. That right there on that way. Let's create a new object, and it's going to be a sprite, and we're going to import a bunch of stuff. Import frames from files, and I'm going to go to Google Game, delete this, anims, and we're going to do all this. Boom. And just like that, I want the bottom of his legs on all of it to be the same. Apply to all animations, yes, but I also want to make a new image point, and I want to set it right there, in the middle. And I'll get back to this later. I'm just going to name this gun attachment, because that's what it's for. We can close that, and we now have that. But I'm going to name this right. And I'm going to duplicate that, name it left, and then I'm going to flip all of these images around. What is the collision of this photo? Full thing, okay. So now, we can close that. Our player is good, we just need to increase the space, so 68, 34, 68, this is 64, 68, 6, 3, 136. So this is going to be our player. So if we click play, that was debug play, we don't want that. We just want normal play. Then we can see our player. But if we full screen, he looks bigger. He also already has animations kind of set up. His first animation plays on start, but we just have to code in the animation. We're going to give him the 8 direction movement. Nope, that's the wrong movement. That's a jump through movement. We're going to give him 8 direction movement, and I'm going to tweak some of these settings. First of all, max speed 500, acceleration 30,000, 3,000 for deceleration as well. Direction, we're going to keep it as 8 direction. Set angle, we're going to turn this to no. Default controls, no. Initial state, no. Now, we have to code in the actual movement. So, let's add an event. Actually, let's add a group first, and we're going to name this player movement. And in here, I'm going to have another subgroup, and this is going to be named direction, actual movement, normal movement, regular, and we're going to add an event, add a sub event, and this one's going to be simple. Tools, keyboard, key is down, D, okay, done. Sprite, stimulate control, right, done. Now we're going to copy and paste this 3 times. We're going to change the keys, and then the directions. So this one's up, this one's down, and this one's left. And there we go. So now we're going to set up a couple of things. One, we need a... I'm going to close these for now. We don't need them. First of all, we need a object. It's a sprite. It's an empty sprite. It's about... if I... it goes across the entire screen. But we need to shorten it to about half, so we need to tweak this to be 800. And then we align it. and I set the image point at the top left. That way it lines up perfectly. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go onto a new layer, and this is going to be down here, and it's going to be named Triggers. It's going to be named Player. In Triggers, so we're going to lock Player, and we're going to go into Triggers. We're going to add this. Now this will keep the Z ordering from messing up, and we can still click on, if I unclick this, we can click on our player before we can click on this. So it's not in the way. Okay, now I want to make this actually work. First of all, we need a couple of new objects. We're going to create a new sprite, and we're going to import, that's the wrong button. We're going to import our first UI element, the cursor. It looks like this. This is a import our first UI element. This one's going to be our crosshair. It's on the wrong layer. It should be on player. There we go. So now what we need to do is we need to do a couple of things. Add a group. We're going to name this mouse. It's going to be pretty simple. We're going to add a sub event, and this one's going to be every tick. So every tick, we want to set this thing's position to mouse.x, but also we want to set it to mouse.y. So now if I click play, there it is. It tracks our mouse. It's a little laggy, but that should be fine in the end. Okay, a couple more things. We want to make a spin, so we also want this thing to rotate clockwise by, we'll do 10. That should get us a nice rotate. That's a little too fast. Let's change that to 5. A little bit too fast still, so let's change it to 3. I'm just having it every time. There we go. I could change it to 1, but then it's kind of slow, and 2 is still just a little bit too slow. So 3 it is. Second, we also want to set the mouse cursor style to be none, and that should give us, yeah, there we go. And now we don't even know it's lagging anymore. It still moves pretty fast, but there we go. So now we can move on to the next thing. We want to make the So we're going to add a group, and this is going to be named Trigger. And this one's just going to be named Direction Trigger. And we're going to put this in mouse. Nope, in mouse. So now what I want to do is in here, I want to add a sub-event and check if this is overlapping this. Done. Real quick, I'm going to rename this object to cursor, this to player, and this to direction trigger. So now we can actually do stuff. If cursor is overlapping the direction trigger, we want to turn the player left. So we're going to set the animation to his left animation. And we also want to add an else flag, which is right here. And we're going to add else player set animation right. And there we go. We should have this is the player animation sort of way. So halfway across the screen it changes. Only thing is the character doesn't move around, turn around when you walk to the left. But that's going to be fixed in a minute, because I'm actually going to double the size of this area to 1800, 300, and add a new behavior to the character, which is the scroll to behavior. And on this, I'm going to add a behavior, which is going to be the anchor behavior. Just like that, we got this. Just like that, we have no issues at all. So now, we can move on. We want to add the first gun. That's what I want to add. So I'm going to lock this trigger layer actually. So we're going to add a new sprite, and we're going to import frames from files. Again, we're going to be doing from here. We're just going to take all 6 of these frames, stick them in, and then delete this frame. So now we have all the gun frames. This is going to be fire. I also need idle, and in here what we're going to do is we're just going to import the first frame. So this is what the gun looks like. It's kind of like a gun, but it's still semi-colored, especially so that it doesn't look especially like a gun. It looks different. So we're also going to duplicate these animations and name them that_flip. And there's a reason for this. Let me just make sure these are in the right order. Now the reason is because we actually have to flip all of these upside down, and that'll be explained in a minute. No, that's the wrong button. Yeah. I need to set all of the points to be about there. So apply the whole animation, in the idle, here again, in the fire flip, it goes here, animation, and in idle flipped it also goes there. Okay, there we go. We don't need to worry about collision for this gun, so we don't have to worry about that. Oh, we also do want to create a new image point right here, and I'm going to stick it there. And then I want to apply that to all animations. Yes, but in fire flipped, it needs to be down here, and in idle flipped, it needs to be down here. And just like that, we have the gun sort of implemented. We're gonna double its size, so the gun is about the same size as the character now. Now we need to set the gun position. So we'll come back to directions here, but we're gonna create a new group, and we're gonna name it guns. Inside this, I'm gonna create a new group, a subgroup, and I'm gonna name that one rifle. Actually, I'm just going to name it AR. In here, I'm going to add a sub-event, and that one is going to be every tick. Set this thing's position. Set position to another object. Here, image point 1. Just like that. So now, if we click play, that's an issue. Oh wait, I know why. The player only has this image point in one of his frames. So I'm going to apply it to all animations. Yes. Just like that. So So now you can see, if I go here, it's there, there. That's odd. Apply to all animations. Yes. Just like that. And same thing left. So now, it should work. There we go. Okay. Let's fix a small issue. On start of layout, stop. I also need to increase the speed of its animation. So set speed 10. And then every tick we also need to set this to rotate toward angle. Sorry, rotate towards position. And we're going to do 360 degrees towards mouse dot x and mouse dot y. And that'll give us our nice movement. But there's a small issue. The gun's held upside down if you face left. So what we're going to do is in mouse trigger, we're going to click, in direction trigger, we're going to add this, set animation, idle. Actually, what we need to do is different. We need to copy this, paste it. Oh, what? No. Add an event. No, which is if the cursor is overlapping direction trigger, done. Then this needs to set its animation to idle, flipped. And there's a good reason for that, which we'll come back to shortly. Basically, now the gun faces the proper way, most of the time. The second you go to the left, the gun does not flip around. So what we're going to do is I'm going to copy this and paste it, and I'm going to invert this and set this to idle. And now that should work. Faces, correct, and there we go. The gun is it's a seamless transition, so there we go. The character and the gun now work properly. There's still a small issue with it facing the wrong way if you're against the side of the screen, but I'm going to fix that in a different way by making the map bigger than the actual screens. And there we go. We now have mouse done for now. In AR, what I want to do is add a firing system. So I'm going to create a new subgroup and name this firing. In firing, I want to add a sub-event, which is mouse left click. Actually, mouse button is down left, done. And this is going to play its animation, which is fire. However, we also need to detect if the overlapping is happening. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to take the direction trigger from here and place it into both of these. And on this one, it's going to play fire flick. So now, okay, that's bad. Basically, it's setting its idle to this every time. But I need to add on any finished to both of these. Let's try that. It's not fast enough. So let's increase its speed. I forgot the speed is frames per second, so let's do industry standard at 30 frames. So low. I'm gonna save this game real quick a couple of times. Save as. And I'm gonna save it as evilkid_back. So I'm actually gonna rename this. Because the last time I worked on this, it broke and I couldn't access it. Okay, let's rename this to evilkid right now. There we go. So, let's set this to 100. Oh. It changes it every time. So now it should run at a faster frame rate. There we go. Firing is now working. But I need to make a variable, which is cooldown. And this cooldown variable is actually going to go into AR as a local number. And the cooldown is going to start at 0. So we also need to check if the cooldown variable is less than 0.1. That way, if this is any higher than that, we can't fire. On fire, what we want to do is increase this to 0.1. And on it set to 0.1, we also want to decrease it. So we want to add a system every x seconds, 0.1. Subtract from cooldown 1. But we also want to make sure it doesn't go below that. So every tick, we want to make sure that the cooldown isn't too low. So we're going to cancel that, put this here. Compare variable, cancel. Compare variable, cooldown, less than 0. Done. If it is, we need to set it to 0. Now our cooldown should be working. So even if you fire even if you're able to click super fast, the cooldown will prevent you from firing that fast. And we can calculate the amount, and it also fixes an issue where if you just do this, you can fire infinitely, really fast. So now that firing is good, and we've got the, now we need to make bullets. So let's create a brand new sprite. We're gonna make this one small, and by create a new sprite, I mean we're going to Pisco. Pisco is my go-to when it comes to animations because it's so useful and it scales cleanly without messing things up. I'm going to make the size 8, and we can make this bullet. First things first. We've got a couple options when it comes to making the bullet. What we can do is this. I need a ping. If this is the gun, if this is the gun, and this is its barrel, what we can do is probably make a raycast system that points a line from the barrel of the gun straight and detects if an enemy is intersecting, which would kill the enemy. Or we could create a projectile or I could create a projectile. Oh my gosh. Or I could create a small projectile that moves from the gun in a direction until it hits an enemy. The issue with the projectile method is that if it only if it only checks every so often, it would check here, 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 and here, but not anywhere on the enemy. I think the best way to go about this is to go through the raycast. It may be more complicated in short term, but it will be better overall. That makes sense? So I'm going to try and do that. So I'm actually not going to do art. So I'm going to delete that completely. So I'm actually going to open up a new edge window, and I'm going to look up how to do raycasts in Construct 2. Does it have raycast? Can I just create a raycast? Maybe line of sight. Line of sight. I'm just doing something. Is that kind of view? 1 degree. There we go. So now we can set up a raycast system. This is essentially a raycast system. I also need to add a limit. I also want to make it unlimited. So its range is going to be literally unlimited. So that's its range, and that's its line of sight. But I'm actually going to tweak. I'm actually going to make this like 100,000, not a billion. So now on firing, it also has to check if it sees something, but we can come back to that later. So let me add a comment. Add enemy checks. And we're good on that for now. The next thing I want to add, real quick, I need to work on this Trello a little bit. So first things first, controls. We're going to stick this in needs work, because for now it's okay. Done. 1. I'll be right back after a short intermission. Intermission over. Okay, so now we need to do, gun one is the AR. And that needs work, but it's done for now. Second, I want to add a grenade system. So let's do that. Back to this, and we're going to add an event. Nope, a group called grenade. Miscellaneous weapons. In miscellaneous weapons, I'm going to add a subgroup called grenade. And I'm just going to make this in order. And under that, we're going to add an event, which is... Actually, first we need to add an object. So let's add a sprite. And for now, it's just... And back over to here. Let's go back to Piscal. And let's create a sprite. I would use a sprite, but I don't own it. So let's make it 16 by 16, and let's do this. The color we want is this nice green. And also a darker green. So we're going to use both of these. So what we want is a ball shape. So let's do this. And we're going to fill that. And let's add some shading. This one's going to be pretty simple. Just some simple lines. Okay, that's not, this circle's not big enough. Move this into position. And I'm going to color everything this color. Then I'm going to paint it all that color. And let's make some lines. Let's start with these simple lines. And now we add these lines. And these lines are going to be... So this is the grenade. And all we gotta do is add a pin at the top, so I'm just gonna grab a nice dark gray color. It's not that dark, but it is a nice color. It's going to be this. And we're going to export this after we resize it. Let's resize this to a nice 3232, and let's export it perfectly. Over to Construct 2, we're going to import the new file from our downloads. This is our grenade. It's a good grenade. I might crop it. There we go. So this is going to be simple. It's going to be a projectile, so I'm going to give it the behavior bullet. And that may seem like something I want to use on this, but I'll I might use that for that instead. But in that event, we're going to create a keyboard event where when a key pressed, and I think I'm going to use the Q key. So I'll use the Q key for now. When the Q key is pressed, this needs to be spawned by this. Spawn another object, grenade, at image point 1. But I also want to make sure it's at the top layer, so I'm going to put it at layer. Okay, so let's try that out. So, if I did this right, once the game starts, when you press the Q key, you can throw it. So let's set a countdown. This is another local variable, so we're going to add a global variable, and this is going to be countdown. And this is going to go into here. On Q pressed, it's also going to set the countdown to 5. So we'll do 3 seconds. We also want to set it to take it down every second. So every second, we want to subtract from countdown. We'll make this 0.1 seconds. We want to subtract from countdown 0.1. And again, we are going to make this a set value countdown 0 every tick if the countdown is less than 0. And now that should work. So on Q pressed and countdown is less than 0.1, spawn it. So that should create a nice... That didn't work at all. You can fire as many as you want. I wonder why that is. Let's try that. Now it's not spawning. Maybe this. Okay, that'll have to do for now. You only get 3 of those, so I'm actually going to remove countdown. Yes. And then delete both of these. Okay. No, I needed those. Okay. At the end of countdown, so if countdown is equal to 0, gotta add a sub event. if countdown is equal to 0, we need to set everything up. So first things first, I'm going to make the particle effect. Let's insert a new particle effect. I'm going to make a couple of these. So let's make the nice deep orange one. We'll just start with this one. It's rather big. So let's fix this. Then let's grab a nice, more red, orange, and then a brighter orange for the inside. Okay, now we need to set up this. So the spray cone is going to be 360. So it'll go in a full circle. That speed's going to be 300. Its opacity is only going to be 50 though, so that we don't mess everything up. Okay, now what we want to do is every tick. Create an every tick, set the particle position, Sprite 3.x and Sprite 3.y. However, on the start of the layout, we want to make it invisible. When countdown is done, set visible. So let's try that out. Let me try experimenting. Let's add a bullet effect to this part. And let's add it to the AR section. Actually, no, we can't do that. We have to do it here. Countdown equals 0. This needs to set its x vector. It sets its acceleration to 0. But it also needs to set its speed to 0. So, set speed 0. And we also want to enable set visible. That's already done. The countdown's just not triggering. I want to also create the particle. But also fire the particle. Okay, so I'm gonna have to continue working on this tomorrow, but for now, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna save as. Let's get backup. Yes. But I also want to save as evil kid. Yes. And I'm gonna close this before it breaks everything.